and I was really liking it. So good on you guys. I love your sound and, the vocals, just the style, the songs that you have. Some of the songs I was listening to, because I haven't listened to your music a lot in the past, but I was listening and going, man, this feels very, very engaging and singable, and I can see how you guys have done so well in your years growing. So good on you. Are you there?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't hear the questions. Yeah, it cut out for some reason.
Okay. Oh, mine cut out. Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, hopefully that doesn't happen. So, So anyways, just to sort of segue into this, I'll just give you a little window on my life in the last couple of days. I've got 4 kids, and my 17-year-old graduated last week, so this is kind of like the first of a milestone for us, and we've had many different grad ceremonies, not the least of which was last night, and I got to be Hello? I hear a little bit of frog in my voice. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, it's cutting in and out for some reason on my end. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I could be the only one doing that though. Somebody else said they were.
Yeah, no, other people are saying they're losing your.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go and try and find and adjust a place where I can get a better audio reception. So just hang tight there. Everybody hang tight. I'm going to fix this.
Yeah.
It's a really dangerous thing to have us on here by ourselves, Wes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what these people are in for at this point. They're really kind of, you got to be in trouble.
So apparently,
I'm
Ryan,
still listening.
I know you are. That's what's the goodness of it. Ryan now had a son graduate high school. Therefore, Ryan's lost his voice. Apparently, he was yelling at the graduation. I don't really know. Maybe his son did something bad at the ceremony. Not really sure.
Yes. Now, Charlene Witt, where are you from? Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, hey, Tim.
Wow. A lot of Canadians on here.
Vancouver.
Wow, Tim. That's awesome.
Oh, that is
That's
crazy,
probably write these songs, man. That's probably write these songs. He's in the church.
Okay, I have found a new place to be. Hopefully that it's a bit better of a audio. Can you hear me pretty good now?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Incredible.
Hope it won't cut in and out.
Okay, hopefully.
Oh, until you said
lost you again.
We are located in all parts of Alabama, Steve. Yeah.
Well, not every part, because that would be weird.
Yeah. Mainly just 2 cities.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wes and Kevin, we're going to have to try and make the best of this. If it's just not workable, just let me know. But are you able to hear me okay right now?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Am I cutting out? Okay.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, we'll just go with it as best as we can like this. I appreciate that you guys are able to just kind of flow with it. I was kind of getting cut off there. I was trying to describe the real story. The real story is not that I graduated, but that my son graduated. You guys seem to kind of reinterpret that, message that I had there. So, anyways, my son graduated last night, and we had the all-nighter grad party. All the
nice.
The festivities were going on. So, I had to definitely set my alarm this morning to make sure I was up after a couple hours sleep, and that's been life in the world of Ryan Dahl. So what's life in the world of Kevin and Wes? What were you guys up to yesterday and today? I'd love to just kind of get a little current on where you guys are at.
Yeah. Well, we are currently in North Carolina, in in a place called Black Mountain, North Carolina, and so it's kind of in the hills and mountains over here. And we like to do a lot of we like to be intentional in playing a lot of like camps and conferences and stuff. And so what we play a lot of is conferences where we get to come into a place, a venue.
You are now unmuted
for like 4 or 5 days, and we get to lead worship with students. So like we're in the middle of 2 camps right now.
You are now muted.
So one just left yesterday. So yesterday we played a morning session, and so it was the last day of one camp yesterday morning, and so then we had yesterday evening off and this morning off, and then tonight we'll start a whole nother camp. So another batch of kids will come in. So last week was about 1,100 students, and this one's about 1,400 students at this one. And
wow.
So it's pretty cool. So, like a lot of people, they ask us, or try to tell us to go play festivals and stuff. But, man, we really love the opportunity where we can kind of come into a place for, play a night session, a morning session, a night session, a morning session. And we're just one part of it. I mean, there's a pastor that's here and a whole staff that's here that's great. But we like to help teach students how to worship because they've never been in a surrounding like this, And so, like, where we're at, there's multiple screens, there's full production and lights and audio, and that's like a big concert. And so we like to take our time and teach kids how to worship. And so they'll come in on day one and be very, like, kind of shy, and they've never been in a surrounding like this, so they don't know how to some of them don't even know what worship looks like or what modern worship looks like. And so we're able to walk with them and hold their hand for a week. And by the end of the last day, I mean, they're just going for it, man. It's super cool. And
that's awesome.
We love doing that. And so literally right now, the camp that we're at, we're here for 2 weeks. And so we're in between the first camp and the second camp literally as we speak. So students are arriving now and getting registered for tonight's first session. So that's where we're at. That's kind of what we were doing yesterday and stuff. And so also yesterday, kind of a fun little tidbit, because it was our kind of a half day off for us. We played this area, this camp before, and so we know some like kind of local spots to hit that are fun. And so particularly, there's a place that we go where we get to hike about 1.5 miles or 2 by like this river kind of thing. And then you get to one point, and it's something called Turtleback Falls. And so it's literally the stone, because of the water, how long it's been going over, it's shaped like a turtle's back. And so you kind of climb a rope and kind of scale the side of the wall, and you get up top, and you sit on your bottom and slide down off the falls into a pool of water. And so it's super cool. And so we just kind of stayed there all day playing with that. And so that's what we were into yesterday.
It sounds like a blast.
I just posted a video of it that you can go and see what we did yesterday. That's me coming out of the water, and I think it's playing our music in the background, which was funny. A buddy of ours is with us. We're kind of getting too old to do this on our days off, but it's worth it to us. I think it's about a 3-mile hike, about 1.5 miles each way. So we had a blast.
Hey, just so that I know, because we're looking at a picture of you guys now, so which one's Kevin, which one's Wes, and then why don't you introduce the other guys of your band as well, even though they're not on the call here. Who are we looking at?
Sure. I'm Kevin on the left. That looks like a midget. I don't even know why that. So, yeah. And then between me and Wes is Jamie, our drummer, in the back. And then right there in the middle with a really cool-looking jacket on is Wes. Our bass player, Jacob, is behind Wes's left shoulder. And then the guy on the far right is Patrick, the guitar player, lead guitar player. And in the bottom corner is our mascot. His name's Ryan Dahl.
Somehow it's like I'm just
part of the band, bro.
Yeah.
You're short, or my picture just doesn't kind of flow in there. So
sure it does. You didn't know this is what our album cover looks like now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to make this our new Facebook profile picture.
Okay. With my face just stuck right in there. Beautiful.
Yep, yeah. perfect.
Well, give me a little background. How'd you guys all hook up together? What's the story on you guys coming together as a band?
Yeah, I'll take this. Well, we met about, I don't know, Kevin, what, 8.5 years ago, maybe 8 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And Kevin and I actually met. Yeah, Kevin and I actually met
9 years
before that and didn't even really realize it. And so, but basically, Kevin's wife Mallory had a little sister, and so she and I kind of grew up together, and my wife were friends and stuff. And so Kevin was in college at Auburn, and was a student there, and he had a band there, and they were kind of playing music, but a few guys were leaving, and it's kind of a transitional time for them, and so Kevin's little sister-in-law was like, hey, they're looking for like another guitar player, kind of singer guy, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I tagged in on that, jumped in on that, and kind of like tried out. It was interesting because Kevin and I met at like, was it like Sonic, Kevin? Is that where it was? Sonic Drive-In? Maybe
I would
like
guess
that.
it was actually a Mexican restaurant because that's usually what happens.
Yeah, well, that was true. Well, that's where we met the first time was a Mexican restaurant for sure. I think we were at like Sonic or something.
Yeah, we were Dairy Queen.
Yeah, Dairy Queen, that was it. And we were riding in my car, and I pulled out the CD of like Bebo Norman. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Bebo. We love Bebo Norman and his music. And Kevin was like, yeah, you're in the band. Like, he was such a huge fan of like Bebo Norman did. But about that time, even before I had gone in to like kind of try out with the band, a guy I know was like, hey, there's this guy, he plays drums, and he's looking for a place to play. Well, okay, cool. What's the info on him? And the first thing was, well, he's 15 years old. We're like, what? So Kevin was 23 at the time. I was about 19. And so that was Jamie, our drummer. And so Jamie came and tried out. Literally, his parents having to drive him back and forth to practice because he didn't even have too young to have a driver's license. Super funny. And so then shortly after that, we're kind of playing together just a little bit, not really playing any shows, but playing out. And I met a guy named Jacob while I was visiting a church in Birmingham. And he, we were like, hey, man, you going to play bass for us? He was like, yeah, sure. Well, Jacob was 16 at the time. So he was super, super young as well, and so that was kind of the core of the band. So if you look at like our first album, there's just 4 guys. That's us. That's the core of who we are. And we had a guy named JD play guitar for us for a little while. He actually played on that first record. Some wasn't on the photo shoot. He was on the second album cover and stuff. And so, so that's kind of how we formed. A lot of people, it's interesting. A lot of people kind of assume that we were like part of a church together or grew up together, and it was none of that. Like, we're all from different cities. We're all from different schools. We didn't grow up together or anything like that. So that's kind of how we got our start. Honestly, through just God just kind of putting us together through different friends and family members back then. So kind of like not really an interesting story as, we were serving, and then one day we were at our church, and one day it wasn't anything like that. It was just, really honestly just somebody that knew somebody that played this or that.
Story is your story, and we've all got unique ways of how things happen, and it's great to see where you've come. So over the years, can you sort of pinpoint a time at which you kind of stepped it up a level, or you thought this is going to become something more significant than 4 random guys that are just playing music together? What was there a point of transition, or has it just been a slow growth and expansion over the years?
Right, that's a great question, Ryan. But honestly, we can't really pinpoint it because, for some reason, in the provision of God, we just had the right song get into the right hands at the right time to the right people, and God took us from having played. I don't even think we knew like each other's middle names and birthdays by the time we had played maybe 20 events together, maybe 25, as like very much of a hobby. I was trying to get my master's. Wes was in automotive school. Like, we had other issues. Jamie, our drummer, was like in math class because he was like in 5th grade or something like that. And so we had all of life going on, and we were but that, like, we were part of an event where a guy heard us, and that guy's name was Andrew Patton, and had given us his card at this little showcase event where we were playing at, and said, "Hey, I'm interested. If anything ever comes up, let me know." And emails start coming in from record labels, and before we know it, we're making a record label. I mean, we're partnering with a record label to make our first record, and we had probably played, again, 25 events together when we accepted our very first spring tour, where we hit several cities, driving through the night. Routing was horrible with a couple of bands. One was called The Turning, and the other one was called By the Tree. And that was January of 2007 till about March of 2007. And by April of 2007, we had our song that had released to radio in January had made it to the top of the charts. It was our first single. It was a song called Undo. And that song, God just chose to open the floodgates of opportunity, and we are beyond just a definition or an example. Or we're beyond the example. We're like the definition of overnight success in the sense of just a worldly perspective of, we are a band that nobody knows to a band that quickly became a name that was more familiar within the Christian music world. And we always tell people, like, we are just a story of God's decision to take some rednecks from Alabama that try to love Jesus well, and he decides to do something crazy with us because we didn't pay our dues. I mean, we definitely worked really hard, and we've toured the road. We've seen a lot of miles on the interstate in a van, and we've done a lot since then. But as far as the opportunity where we went from a part-time hobby to a full-time band, it was nearly overnight for us. I mean, it was metaphorically, it was overnight. And so we're not a band that can say we worked for 10 years and then we finally got our break. Like, we called our break before we tried to catch a break. Like, it was crazy. And so since then, I think we've just, what we would say is in our new record and these new batch of songs that God's given us, I mean, this is our 4th record, but we feel like it's taken us 4 records to really portray who God has called us to be. And that's not that we are not proud of the other 3 pieces of work. We just think it took us some time to figure out how to express musically who we've always wanted to be. Because I think a lot of people, and maybe even the people on the chat right now, would see our band and think, oh, that's a CCM band that has CCM songs, and they can also lead worship. And what we would dare to say is we're probably more along the lines of, we're a worship band that happens to release some songs that can on Christian radio. The core of who we are is a band that leads worship. That's the majority of all the events that we do.
Yeah. Is there some challenge, like personal challenge, when you are what you guys are calling like an overnight success, where it comes so quickly by one song, and you sort of have to try to keep up with this thing? I mean, now you got to write another song or repeat it or something like that. What are some of the challenges you faced, just even personally, growing so fast in your kind of recognition in the early years? Did you have to deal with the elements of fame and notoriety and all of that? Were you prepared for all that, or was some of that a bit of a struggle?
Well, I would say, I mean, we were grateful for all of that and kind of what happened and the way God kind of took that thing to another level, like super fast. But I would say that, I would even say that we were so young, and just the fact that and this is 8 years ago, I mean, we were so young when we first started that none of us had ever like traveled a whole ton or really played a ton of shows, and so we were just having a lot of fun. I mean, we still are, but we were just having a lot of fun. So every day was just like this new adventure, and honestly, like, it was funny because people wanted to take their picture with us or get an autograph or ask questions, and so honestly, like, we've just got a lot of guys. I'm just going to brag on our guys in the band for a second, but like the guys in our band, we're just raised right. You know what I mean? Like I would just even dare say that like I think our parents raised us in a sense of like going, you stay humble, work hard, and say yes ma'am and no ma'am. You know, like, and so we did. We tried to do that as we went along. We tried to just we set boundaries, you know, for ourselves that, you know, we would always kind of stay together or stay with somebody in the band, you know, because you want to keep some sort of accountability. And honestly, if one of us got out of line in the sense of like we weren't humble, we would call each other out, and we still do. We do that to this day, you know. And so there's just this sense of like this brotherhood and accountability, and just kind of going along this whole time doing that. And so the notoriety is one thing, but honestly, like, I'm sure there's times that everybody's gotten full of themselves at some point or another, and there were moments, you know, like that. But honestly, like, we always try to just stay on top of one another and hold each other accountable biblically, you know, and with humility and stuff. And so one of the things that we've always tried to do as a band, and we would encourage, it's so funny that like we're now the artists, like we're now a band that like younger bands ask us questions, you know, like we're going, great, now we feel really old. You know, like now we feel like super, super old. Matter of fact, at the camp that we're playing at, there's a person there's a couple on people on staff here, and particularly one guy who's on staff, and he was like, hey man, I just want to let you guys know you're doing a great job. I was actually a student here in 8th grade when you played worship here one time. We're like, great. I'm in college and I'm on staff here. Awesome. Great. That makes us feel super old. So anyway, that was super funny. But, you know, we've tried to just make a point in our band to love people and serve on people that bring us into play. A lot of people, they may not understand the world that we're in of going, you know, hey, come play in our city. And we're like, well, we would, but the process is, you know, somebody has to call us to come and play and book the show and for us to come in and play. And so those people who book the show and those volunteer staff who help put shows together, we try to love on them hard because they're putting in so much work, and a lot of times they get trampled on. And so we you know, there's ways that when we walk into a venue that, you know, we'll find the person who's booking the show and we'll thank them. We'll say, you know, like, how can we serve you? You know, and so at the end of the day, like, we're coming into their community. You know, we're coming into their community to lead worship. And so we need to know about their community. How can we pray for your community? What are we walking into tonight? What should we expect? And so, you know, and so those are some things like that we've tried to do as a band, and try to tell artists, like, hey, you know, love on the people that are bringing you in. Don't just sit in the green room all day and drink coffee. Like, get out, serve, love people, you know. And so that's really worked out for us. And so honestly, a lot of those promoters have been like, wow, like, that's great. We're going to bring you in again. And so then we don't do it intentionally, you know, of let's be nice so we can have more shows. It's not that way at all. But there's just something about our guys that I just love, that they're humble. They try to love on people that bring us in, and they work super hard. They work super hard. A little bit of a tangent there, but that's a little bit of info about us.
No, that's great. Hey, for those of you who are chatting, I am watching the chat line, and also if some of you have a question in particular that you want to have me ask, we've got a little ask a question button up there, and Natasha will send that on to me. So I'm going to try and keep this, you know, a dialogue between all of us who are listening in. Someone's just asking if you can talk a little bit about your music training, either personally or as a band. So tell us a little bit about that. Or is that
I didn't know.
Our music training. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, Steve.
Our music training would consist of not any at all. It's just honestly, like, all of us where we were, like, man, Kevin, I don't think Kevin, when did you pick up guitar? Like college, high school, or something like that?
Yeah, I think I was
kind of later on.
17. It was before the internet came out, but I mean, like,
right.
I was still like, but it was, so I couldn't use YouTube to learn it, but I had a guy show me chords. I mean, that was it.
Yeah. That's kind of the way it was for all of us. Like, none of us have been trained or anything like that. I took I took like 2 guitar lessons and my teacher quit.
That's how bad Wes was.
Yeah, and so I think Patrick, he may have taken a few lessons as a kid. I know he was super young. Jamie, I think, really trained himself. Jacob did, our bass player. So we're all kind of, I don't think where we're from had really any place that we could be trained or anything. So I would say, honestly, the best thing that ever happened to us as far as like learning music was when God said, you know what, I'm going to throw you out on the road. Honestly, like that was, it took us a long time to like really hone in our skills and really kind of figure out who we were. We tell people this, it's taken us 8 years to feel comfortable as a band. 8 years. And that was only till recently, probably like the last, maybe 7 years, last year and a half, where we really feel, okay, like comfortable, you know what I mean? Like comfortable in who we are, who we're playing. We thought we finally figured out who we are. You know, a lot of artists, they'll kind of come out of the chute as new artists and go, this is what we sound like, this is who we are, this is what we have to offer. And we come at the angle of going, man, it's taken us a long time to figure out any of that. Props to you guys for knowing, on the front end, but like it's just taken us a long time to figure that out. And so, yeah, I honestly, who was it that asked that? Was it Steve that asked that question?
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, and Kevin can kind of back this up, I still have no idea about music. I don't know anything about it. I just know like kind of what key we're going to play it in, and for me, it's what capo, what fret to put the capo on. I kid you not. Sometimes we'll be looking at during the set, and I'll look back and go, what capo is it? Like what fret do I put this capo on? Honestly, and so I think there was a couple albums ago that we needed some like keyboard live, and Kevin like sat down and tried to learn how to play keyboard a little bit. Never really played piano, and so that's us, man. So there's no real classical or like professional training for us.
Yeah. Well,
agreed.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the piano is the perfect example for the fact that, like, we decided, like, hey, let's spend some money and buy a nice piano. And I was like, guess I should learn how to play some chords. And like, it just kind of came with the necessity of, like, we felt like that would add some frequencies to our live sound that would help us. And we just literally, like, I actually think that in the past 2 to 4 years, what has helped us, what has helped Wes and I, is beyond just the band on the road, is the fact that when we're serving in our local churches, like our volunteers, because we say that we're kind of the extension of 2 local churches back in Alabama, but we have volunteers in our church bands that are just better musicians than we are. So they're like, I think they're perplexed. They're like, so you guys like travel for a living and play music because you don't even know what B flat, like how to play in B flat. Like they're pretty perplexed by it. And I promise you, this is not our aim for false humility. Like, we're actually not making this up. It's pretty insane that God just has let us figure out how to take just some simple chords on the guitar and on a piano. And I will say that Wes and I are probably the 2 weakest musically out of our band. Our drummer, bass player, and lead guitar player are pretty sick musicians. So that makes it a lot easier for us on the road.
Yeah. Well, music is like that, where some people, if you've got the gift and the heart and the personality or whatever it is, people can make great music and have no idea what they're really doing. Sounds like that's kind of your approach, but other people can know all the intricacies about and all the theory and maybe even the math behind the frequencies of everything in music, they can explain it all, but they just can't make music that anyone would ever want to listen to. So there's kind of two worlds, and maybe the perfect blend is somebody that has has a knowledge of music and the heart and ability to make a beautiful sound. But the Lord has His way of handing out gifts and callings, and He's obviously put something on your guys' life that is impacting a lot of people, and I don't know if it's a model to say, hey, don't learn music, just go out and wing it, because probably a lot of people can't do that, but there's definitely a heart element and a gift element and a passion element to engaging people with music, would you say? Or what would you say is, the message you want to give out to other people looking to you, trying to aspire towards leading worship? I mean, certainly you're not going to say, don't bother learning music. Just go on stage and, figure out what capo you're on. Right? That's not
yeah, I mean,
a message.
no, I mean, we there needs to be some sort of preparation for sure. Like, even though I'm pretty terrible at learning, like there was a point that I did in school, like I had a chord book that I figured chords out, and God kind of gives me with rhythm, like some sort of strumming rhythm and stuff, and so those two kind of came together very well. But I would say that one of the things is that for us, we get our name. And I'm sure this would be a question that would be asked later, but we get our name from 1 Corinthians 1:26 through 31. And Paul's talking about how, God chose the foolish things of the world and the weak things of the world to shame the wise and to shame the strong. And so what we kind of take from that a lot of times is that God can use people who are not very well put together, and are kind of jacked up. I mean, look at His disciples, for goodness sakes. And so, for us, we've kind of gone, we want to be an encouragement to somebody who's a fan of music or who's wanting to do something. Go, listen, no matter where you come from, or what you've done, or where you've been, or who you are, God can use you. And He can totally use you, no matter how jacked up you are. And so, I mean, I would say for sure, if there is some sort of guitar teacher, around, get in and learn and see if you can take some lessons and see if you can figure out how to play, and play a lot and practice a lot. And, back then, but way back in the day, man, when we were starting, when I was learning guitar, I would sit in my room for hours and just figure out how to play one song, and I would figure out how to play that song well, very, very well. And so, so there's different approaches. And now we're at a place now where, for us at least, you don't really have rehearsals except for maybe once a year or something before you go out on a tour, because you play so much and so often that that it is kind of your rehearsal when you play 150, 200 times a year, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, find somebody that can invest in you and teach you your instrument and learn it well. Spend some time on it.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, why don't we take a little bit of time? I got a few songs in our PowerPoint here that we could look through and just kind of get a taste of some of the songs and themes and heart behind, the latest album, Carry Us Now, that's just come out in the last couple of weeks. So, Natasha, maybe you can put up a few titles here. I've got, I think Lay Me Down was the first song. Now, that one is one we've heard on a couple of albums before. Is that just kind of got a unique place in your ministry? Let's just talk through a couple of songs and why they've made their way onto your latest album.
Yeah, Lay Me Down is a song that I would imagine many of the worship leaders on here should be very familiar with by now. It's one of the fastest climbing songs on the CCLI chart, so it should be familiar to most. This is actually in 4 records. This is the very first, I guess, I don't even use it, and it's not even a good word really, but cover song, meaning it's the very first non-original song that we have put on an album, and we don't think there was a better one for us to do. It is such an incredible, the song speaks from this place of vulnerability, and this desire for humility, but also this desire for sacrifice. There's just this beauty of this idea of us trying to give back our lives for the glory of God. Like there's this passion that you see out of the Apostle Paul in Philippians 3 saying, I count all things as lost for the sake of knowing more of Christ Jesus my Lord. You know, like this idea of being willing to lay everything down for the glory of God. And all of us on here, we all know that God doesn't need us, but He wants us, right? Like He doesn't need our help, but He wants our help. He doesn't have to have us, but He wants to have us. And there's this incredible declaration just from the lyrics of this song that we loved. And so we actually went to the label and asked them, there's a few songs that we think the church is singing right now, this being one of them, and we'd love to make a statement with this record showing that, like, we are a church, like, we are for the songs in the church, and we love songs from the church. A good friend of ours gave us insight and wisdom a few years back, saying, if you write songs for radio, it lasts for a season, right? Like if you're writing for radio, it's a temporary fix. But if you write songs for the church, those songs are eternal. So I think this is a bit of us just going like we want to see our songs be about the kingdom of God, the things of God. And this song, I think for us, there's always this struggle of finding in events that you need to have those more up-tempo songs. I think it's easy for all of us that are songwriters to write an up-tempo song that just is really fun to sing but doesn't say a whole lot. There's something incredible about this song because it's a really up-tempo worship song, but it says a lot. Like there's an incredible, rich, thick goodness that comes with this as we sing it together. And so, this is exciting for us to have on the record.
Yeah, that's great. I think I noticed Michael W. Smith put it on his latest album too that just came out in the last month or so. So clearly something is, taking hold with this song, and I'm sure all the worship leaders who are listening in where, everybody's always looking for a good, rich, thick song that's got, a good tempo to it and can gather people together, and this is definitely a song for our day. So I think it will last a long time, as you're saying. Well, let's keep moving on to some of the songs you guys have written and brought into the world of worship. So, how about "Nailed to the Cross"? Let's look at a couple of the lyrics here.
Yeah, is it up there? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
I mean, "Nailed to the Cross" is one of our favorite songs that we play. Get the lead. This is one of our songs, and we love this song a lot. We've been playing it for a little while. Thank you, Charlene. You rock. For that lyric video, it's gonna be a cool lyric. You hear the lyrics on that one as well. But yeah, I mean, so Kevin and I we live in Alabama. We all live in Alabama, but we were up in Nashville writing, and we were staying at our manager's house, and we kind of got up that morning and started reading kind of the devotion that we have. And we both have Morning by Morning and Evening by Evening by Charles Spurgeon. And so there's a morning devotional that's short, and there's an evening devotional that's short, and they're awesome. And so we got up that morning, we were reading the same devotional, the same morning, the same date, and it was in Colossians 2. And so if you look in Colossians 2, it gives us like a really good picture of like our debt and our sin as debt, And so it's pretty cool. And there's a lot of, like, we wanted to write a song that was about, like, news that you would hear like in a bank, like debt in our account, and what we owe, and things like that. And so we started writing songs, this song in particular, basically out of Colossians 2. And so we loved it, and it talks about how our debt has been nailed to the cross, right? Like the debt of our sin has been taken away and has been nailed to the cross through Jesus. And so we were like, you know what, like, let's write a song about that today. And sure enough, like, we did. And so this is the song that we wrote about that. And so like people, pastors are teaching this out of Scripture. It's such a beautiful passage, a beautiful text in Colossians chapter 2. That it's a very short chapter, and it's super cool. And so we went that day and we started writing that song, and so here it is, and so we've been able to lead it. We actually probably led this song a year before it came out on the album, and just kind of test it out and tune it and dial it in and things like that. And so you can see in the lyrics, I am poor, I am spent, I'm filled with much regret, and so these things like what I owe is above my head, and my account has nothing left. And so you're at a point where you just go like, I've got nothing, like I've got sin, I've got nothing. This is where I'm at in my life. But then you look to the chorus, there's the hope of like my debt has been nailed to the cross and it's all gone, And so even in the bridge ends up going on saying this record of my sin is canceled now. All that I stood against is falling down, And so it's just a really cool song. It's another up-tempo song. Like we struggled for a long time with having up-tempo songs, that were the worship songs, and so this is a kind of one of those spots that kind of fills that role. And so, like Kevin says, we lead a lot in our churches, and so these songs are new to people now. Like our record's only about 2 or 3 weeks, and so this record is new to people, but to our church, they've been hearing them for a year or so, at least a year. And we've been able to lead them at our churches and just kind of like test and tune them and dial them in and tweak them. And this is one of those songs that we've both been leading in our churches. Kevin serves at a church and I serve at a church and separately. And so these are songs we've both been leading. And so we think it's an incredible song that is an Easter song. So if you're a worship leader and looking for a song that's Easter driven, man, throw this one in the Could Be Baptist because this can work there. We like Kevin was talking about writing songs for the church. This is one of them.
That's really good. Hey, I've got a few questions coming in, from guys that are writing songs themselves. So Joshua's asking any tips for songwriting. He says, I get lyrics when I'm in worship, but I don't want to pull out my phone or a piece of paper and write it down. I kind of lose inspiration when I sit down to write a song. So what can you give as inspiration to some of these guys listening who are writing their own songs and trying to get those words out?
Yeah, first and foremost, I would say, man, I think it's an incredible thing to do as worshipers, especially those that God's given a musical ear to. I think that we don't need to be wasting our lives. We don't need to be wasting our time. And I think something for worship leaders is, even if you don't consider yourself a songwriter, like go to the Psalms and hang out with David, the great psalmist, and see kind of how he wrote, so you could get into that state of mind, kind of that mind frame, and think through, like, man, he's singing these songs to God, about God, for God, and people are singing these songs as well in the church in those days. And I think that we don't have a formula that we go by, and we don't even have a philosophy that we drive from, but we have a few key essential things that we just that go through our filter. And I think that's probably more important than like the ABC steps. Like, we're not about to say anything that people probably haven't already heard, but this is what's worked for us. And so I'll have at it with that. Like, first and foremost, it's got to be biblical. Like, if you have lyrics that you feel like, I want to put these to music, before you even think about the music side, like, we got to make sure that the lyrics that we're singing are biblical, because we're not writing about our girlfriend, we're writing about God. So what we're saying matters, and so we go from I would say that we're pretty easily, from mine and Wes's perspective, we're pretty easily persuaded to make changes on a musical melody or an idea or a chord or a key. Like, you can change our minds pretty quick on that. Where we sweat and bleed over is our lyrics. And so every word on a page really matters, because 20 years from now, maybe God will let us still be doing this by His grace. But, like, whether we're still doing it or not, these records are going to exist somewhere for people to find somewhere. And so we got to be able to live with that. You know, their words going onto a page and into the digital world for people to find. And so they got to be biblical. So they got to be biblical. I think what we've worked really hard at is trying to write with vulnerability would be our second thing, kind of like this vulnerable, transparent state of mind. So if our worship songs that we're writing have statements or declarations that are related to our own walk, typically we tend to try and be honest about our flaw and our weakness rather than say the things that we're going to do for God. Because usually our aim is, instead of saying what we're going to do for God, we like to say what God's done for us, because that's way more impressive, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that the three things is it's biblical. The second is that it's honest, vulnerable, transparent. And third, because we're songwriters for what we want to believe is we're songwriters for the church, we think it should be singable. We love pop music, and we love top 40, and we love melodies that are catchy and hooky. And so I think that when you're writing songs, you got to aim to sing something that goes, you know, you got to be able to, you know, I think there's great litmus tests for that. Like I don't think that necessarily like Easter Sunday morning is a great time to teach 3 new church songs, but I do think that, you know, a college gathering on a Monday night might be a great place for a worship leader to go and try out some new places. I think other musicians that you have great relationship with and community with, sharing that with one another, even if they're little demos on your iPhone, I think that there's a great way to kind of have a gauge of whether or not the song feels like it's going to be singable. But we applaud anybody that is going to go out for writing, you know, that's going to go after writing songs for the church, because I just don't think that, and we love this man and we look up to him and he is somebody to respect, that it is not Chris Tomlin's job to write the next generation songs. It's the people, it's the singers that God's given a heart for music for. It's not one man's responsibility. It's on many of us within the realm of the church, and so we ought to be pursuing it with excellence.
You know, another song I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of another aspect of songwriting that a lot of people are doing, is going back into the old hymns that have the, you know, the text and the lyrics and the theology that's been really deeply thought through, and bringing them, you know, into a new musical generation. And you guys have kind of done that with the Power in the Blood song. I really liked your arrangement of that. So was that something intentional, that you wanted to take an old hymn and kind of reshape it, or how is that a part of your songwriting?
Yeah, well, I'll jump in on this one. We were actually in the studio, and we're tracking the album. And a matter of fact, I think Jamie and Jacob were down there tracking on something, and we were writing. A guy who had written a couple of songs with us on the album was named his name's Jonathan Smith. He's a really good friend of Jason Ingram, and Jason Ingram's our producer, and we write a lot of songs with him. And I know you guys have had Jason on before, amazingly.
Yeah.
But Jonathan was like, you know, we were kind of looking for one more kind of spot to fill on the album, and we, he was like, I've been kind of, you know, he said, I've been kind of playing around with this Power in the Blood. You know, maybe we can try to write a chorus to it. So okay, and so way back in the day when we first started playing our band, we used to kind of rework hymns like that and kind of play with them a little bit, and so to us it was like, yeah, let's do this. And so we were out on the top, the studio we had like this really cool porch and deck, and you could like climb upstairs, like 3 stories high, and sit up top, and it kind of sits out in the woods. And so we sat out there that day, and we got there that morning and just wrote a chorus to it. And so you know, and I think, you know, if you're a songwriter, you know, I think a lot of times, at least for us, maybe we're the only ones that do that. We will get into songwriting, and we want to make it harder than it needs to be. You know, we want to make things more difficult than they need to be. And people who are gathering with us on Sunday mornings, they want something that's sometimes simple, yet profound and singable. You know, and so that's what we were able to do with this song. We were able to write a chorus to it. You know, and we're just talking about the power that is in the blood. You know, like you're seeing, to save, to heal, to give us strength to stand, to cleanse, redeem, you know, and all that is found in the blood of the Lamb. And so it was a really fun song to write. Kind of has this kind of a boom chuck feel, you know, very simple. Should be very simple for churches to play as well.
Oh, I think it's going to catch on great. One more song quickly before we wrap up. Take Me Over. I really like the feel and the spirit of this song. Is that sort of a highlight song as well on your album?
Would Take Me Over?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we love this song, and Kevin can chime in here. I mean,
Totally.
we absolutely love this song. It's probably one of our favorites to play.
I can imagine.
Yeah. If we're playing like say we play all kind of different events, but if we're playing like somebody calls us in and says, "Hey, Rushville, we want you to do your show," where our show is worship, but if it's kind of like our show, we'll start the whole night with this track. It's so bumping, it's so live. And so it's also one of the songs that we're able to teach at these camps and conferences, and it's been going over really, really, really well. It's one of the songs that students are like, "Hey, we love the song Take Me Over. We've been playing it. Can you play it again tonight?" And so we hear a lot of that. And so it's been a fun one. You kind of look back now and we kind of go, man, I wish we could capture on the album the way it feels and sounds live. Like it sounds so much bigger. It sounds like there's a dance party going on, like there's truly like a dance party going on. And so, if you look at, and Kevin can chime in here, if you look at that chorus, it kind of throws back to an old hymn.
Yeah, if any of you are used to old grandmama's church, like that should be those first three lines of the chorus ought to be very familiar. There's peace, peace like a river. There's joy, joy like a fountain. There's love, love like an ocean. And so, I think that sometimes we can be guilty of just like throwing the water words around with God, but there is something rich about this idea of like, could we just extend these attributes to God to make much of Him, and then it kind of in this idea of the verse of like, in the dry and weary place where there's no water, my soul longs for you. What is that, Psalm 64? I think is this idea of like we need more of God, and so we wanted to use these water attributes, kind of like with nailed to the cross, and how we use the financial the currency language. With this we use that water language that we're used to seeing in a pretty prevalent in worship songs. And so I think that we have a lot of. I mean, I think for us this is a song that's awesome to like. If you got a convertible on a sunny day and on the West Coast or down in the South where it's warm, you pull it back and listen to the song. But more importantly for us, it's like if you've got a slot where you're just trying to find some engagement and some up tempo in a worship set, it's allowing us, the opportunity to ask God to come and consume every part of our lives, to flow in as if water flows, into a river, like that God would come and do something in our world.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, as I was listening to the album this morning, I really got a sense these are songs that people are going to be able to use. And, clearly you guys have a heart for worship as a primary, focus in your music, in your songwriting. You're not afraid of, pursuing songs that might be, with simpler melodies and chord progressions and things like that congregations can catch on to, and people can be encouraged and inspired. So there's more than just these four songs, obviously, that we have talked about, but that was a good, really good taste of your heart. We're kind of coming up to the end of our hour together, so I just kind of want to draw things to a bit of a close. And as you know, and other people, we've been already chatting today on the webinar that the charts for this album are available on Praise Charts, so you certainly can get those there, and you can find the audio on iTunes and every other type of channel. I was listening to you on RDO this morning, so I'm sure you're everywhere. That's the way music consumption goes today, but it's such a part of our lives in so many different ways, and sounds like you guys are really in a great season, where you've really matured together, even though you're young guys still together, and it's great to see. You're a real encouragement.
Thank you, guys, man. We're grateful that we would be asked to be on here with you guys. Like we use Praise Charts. Like we're a fan of Praise.
Really?
Charts. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's kind of like, can we get you guys' autograph kind of thing? Like you guys are kind of our heroes. I mean, we use them at our church. There's some people I get to lead with at church, a guy named Will, a girl named Megan, and they're all the time going, you know, hey, we got the email that you guys are in praise charts. And we're like blushing, you know, like it's super cool that, you know, because we're honored. We're so honored that, you know, what we try so hard for, which is to write songs that are worshipful and biblical, and like Kevin says, we bleed over these lyrics. And what we always envision is that churches play our songs. And matter of fact, we were riding in our van yesterday, and we've been doing this for a long time. And we've seen all kind of videos on YouTube where people have posted videos of us of people playing our songs and stuff like that. And just the other day, we saw somebody posted another video of playing one of our songs at church, and we're just floored. Like, we're just honored. Like, I think Kevin said yesterday, Kevin was like, guys, like, somebody is playing, like, our songs in church. And they, you know, it's not a new thing to us, but, like, the fact that it's not gotten old is something that I love.
Yeah.
And so we love that. So we're a huge fan of you guys. We love what you guys are doing, and we're thankful that we can just be a partner with you guys, for real. And we use praise charts at our church, no question about it.
I'm really encouraged by that. Thank you.
Oh man, and like the only thing I would tag is like that's I think that's one thing that while we get excited, like we're going to be the ones annoying you, Ryan. Like, hey, when's the next time we can come and hang out with you guys? It's just that it's just honestly, like it's just the fact that where God has us in the season, and it's pretty refreshing and endearing to hear that like it's noticeable just in our tone and where God has us, but we're in such a healthy place, we feel like, because of how God's just given us a pretty fast heartbeat for the local church. And we love the global church, and we believe that God, you know, is moving in the global church and moving at large. We believe that, you know, Jerusalem is our first place. And so the local churches that God has us a part of, I mean, I think that we're able to now have our lenses that we wear as worship leaders for the global church. We get to have the lenses on with also our hands and feet on the local side of things. So it's not like we're coming in to give some advice to guys that we can't relate to, because we do what most of you on here do. Like, we lead on 35 Sundays a year. We're at our home churches leading worship in front of a congregation of people. So it's not always big stages, big arena, big room, thousands of people. Like, we're a part of Church Plantsburg. Like, we are small churches in our cities. And so and I think that's allowed us this opportunity to kind of go like, I promise you, some guys may say they get it, but we really get it. I promise you, like, we get it when you play a song and you're excited about it and nobody sings along. So, like, we're with you and we're in the trenches with you. So thanks for letting us so much. Thanks for letting us be a part.
Awesome. Well, you know, just talking to you, I can tell we're about the same thing. And that's where my heart beats as well. And, you know, I'm not the guy. I mean, I play, and I was a worship leader and worship pastor and all of that. That's where Praise Charts kind of grew out of. But right now I'm in a season where my, you know, heart is to support guys like you and support the worship pastors and the songwriters that are out there, and you know, and so I'm really encouraged that we can sort of, you know, go arm in arm together and do what God has called us to do. And I really sense the purity of your hearts, and feel like God is honoring that. So thanks to you for sharing this hour with us. If you don't mind, I'm just going to take a couple minutes to kind of recap on where I'm heading for the rest of the day, because this is actually the first day. I've probably done about 30 to 40 webinars like this over the last couple of years, and today I'm actually doing 2. You guys might even be interested in the topic of this next one, because Steve McPherson, who's the manager of publishing at Hillsong Church, is going to come online with me in about 6 hours, which is actually tomorrow for him today. It's just the way the schedule works out. So Steve is not, I mean, he used to write songs at Hillsong and be up there on the stage leading for their videos, and then he moved into the world of publishing and song promotion and all of that at Hillsong, and him and I have become super good friends. in the last number of years. We're both kind of similar age and have 4 kids and a wife, and similar paths on the journeys that we're on. So anyways, I said, Steve, you and I should just get on the phone and we should just talk about the whole world of music publishing as it relates to the church. And churches are trying to encourage songwriters and people to write songs and even publish them and get them on an album, but there's kind of this whole complex world of copyrights and song ownership and all this stuff that can kind of get really messy if you don't understand that or have someone to sort of go, here's what that looks like. So we're certainly not trying to turn all of you songwriters who are listening in into industry folk, and turn your love of songwriting into some kind of business or something, but I think you'll find this discussion to be really helpful to listen in on and just hear from a guy who's clearly, been on the side of a church that's walked through this journey. And I'm certainly not trying to, suggest that every church is going to become like a Hillsong, but we're just going to get real practical and ask and have a lot of questions answered. And if any of you can join me, that'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 3 p.m., so I guess that's about 5 hours. But we are going to record the session, and it'll be available, in YouTube and in our blog. So if you ever want to go and listen to it, that's that. So what do you think? That should be pretty interesting, hey? I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, heck yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, bro.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're hoping that we're an encouragement to you, and I'd just like to close our time in prayer and just pray that God would continue to, fan the flame of blessing on you and the whole band and the team behind Rush of Fools, and we're just grateful to be on the same journey with you. So Lord, thank you for these guys that I've been able to enjoy getting to know, and not just hear the stories, but hear the heartbeat that's behind all the songs they write and all the opportunities that they have to lead students. I pray for their time when in the camp that they're at right now, with thousands of kids coming through and are going to be able to have their lives touched by these songs and the stories that come from all the guys that are part of Rush of Fools. And just we're grateful for that, grateful for a fresh wave of songs that you're bringing through them and the gift that you have given them to offer that to us. So thank you, Lord, and we just pray this all in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen,
thank
bro.
you, guys.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope that we can do this again together. Next time we'll kind of know each other a little more, and and one time we'll see each other in person, and we can just exchange autographs. How about that? I'll sign your card, you sign mine. We'll call it good.
I love that.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Thanks everybody for tuning in and hanging out with us. See you later.
Yeah. Blessings to you guys. Talk to you later. See you then.
All right.
Thank you, guys. See ya. Bye-bye.
All right.
Later.
So those of you who are hanging out